Hey everyone, in this video we're going to learn about API gateways, why we'd use them, and how they kind of work. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and talk a little bit about the problem, because I think one of the easiest ways to understand the technology is if you know the business problem first and kind of where it's coming from. If you're not interested in that, you can skip forward a little bit in the video and I'll jump straight into the diagram. But to start off with now, I just want to talk about what the problem is from a business point of view and why we'd want to use an API gateway. So using an API gateway, or if you're in the Spring world, you can use Spring Cloud Gateway. That's one of the dependencies that you can add in to your Spring Boot application that'll allow you to route requests to different URLs. Okay, so let's think of a scenario. So we have a web application. This could be built in anything. This could be a React application, an Angular application, or whatever. And it's calling three different microservices. And these three different microservices have different pieces of data. And the UI that's calling them, the web application, needs access to all these three services, but it doesn't authenticate or anything. So these three services are just open, they're exposed on the internet, and the reason they're exposed is because the web application itself is exposed. Anyone can go to the web page and log in. And if we were to maybe use a real world example for this, we could think of Amazon. So everyone in the world is able to go to Amazon.com, Amazon.co.uk, Amazon whatever, and we can go and look at products. So if you want to imagine web application, just think of Amazon. So then we have a business reason. I've called it. These are not like hard and fast things, but one of the business reasons might be that we have all of our microservices expose API data to the public, but we mightn't want that. We might want to have some of our endpoints authenticated. And this business reason could come down to like compliance, or it could come down to company policies or a number of other things. But they want to lock down these endpoints for whatever reason. And then we have the technical problem. So the technical problem is we need to kind of create a service or do something with the current services to provide authentication and authorization and still have the web application being able to access it when it needs to. So if we jump to a diagram, let's go and start off with our web application here. So we can say this is our web app. This could be built in anything, and for now we can imagine it as Amazon. So we've got our web app, and our web app is no good without data. So we need to go and fetch some data from microservices or just web services in general. So let's go and pull out this. So this might be service A, this could be service B, and this could be service C. So we clean those up. So what is the issue now? We might want to see product data. That would be like a good starting point. So there's probably an endpoint like this, products. That might be harmless enough because it might have information on the products such as, the product name, might have the product size, might have a product image and things like that. So exposing that, having this microservice exposed to anyone at all might be okay. But then we'll have other services like maybe customer. So customers would be like you and I, people who are using Amazon to buy a rug, buy a toothbrush, buy, a table or chairs or whatever. And then we could have partner data. Now partners would be people who are selling their stuff on Amazon. So they're the person who's actually selling the chair, selling the table, selling whatever. And we wouldn't really want to have these two microservices exposed to the internet as a whole, because this customer endpoint could have some sensitive data, like it could have my email address, and the same goes for the partner. The partner may have an email address, it may have the partner's home address. So information like this we wouldn't want to, you know, be providing to the public internet, or have it available to someone using the public internet. We'd want to have some sort of security in place. So that's where an API gateway could come in. So an API gateway would just be kind of another box that would sit here in the middle, and you'd have to go through that box to get to the customer or the partner data. So you could imagine if we were to move these over here, we take away that arrow, we'll put this in front, and this will be an API gateway, and then this API gateway will then route the request to either the customer or the partner. So if we were to see what that kind of looks like, let's see an arrow going here. We also have an arrow going up to this service. And then you can imagine this will go to either B or C, depending on which one is needed. Now, what's going to be in this API gateway? Well, we're probably going to have security like authentication, just to find out who this person is. Okay, their name is Ryan and they're a customer. Great. Okay. So what's their authorization? Well, they're able to go and make requests to the customer endpoint, but they're not able to know about all customers. They're only able to know about some. So imagine my customer number was 1234, then I would be authorized to get information about myself, and I might be able to be authorized to edit some of the information. So I might be able to change my name or change my email or phone number, things like that. But there would be things about me that I wouldn't be able to change, like maybe my store credit and things like that. That would be dealt with in a different way. So now that we know that an API gateway is just really a man in the middle between where we are and what we want when we're not able to access it directly. And if it was a case where there's only one of these services that required authentication and authorization, we probably wouldn't need an API gateway. We could probably just do that authentication and authorization in that given service. But the reason why an API gateway would be beneficial in this case is because we have multiple services that require the exact same thing. And further on down the line, there could be additional services that have been created, or there may be additional services right now that are using their own authorization and authentication. And we could remove that from that given service, and we could add it into the API gateway. And then we would only have one place where that authentication is done, and that would lead to simplicity in things like maybe debugging. So the API gateway would be the first kind of point on where the requests are authenticated. So we know if it's got past the API gateway stage, it's not an issue with the authentication or the authorization. So it's quite a simple idea. A gateway is a general term that's used. If we think of something like our home internet, we would have a gateway as well, and the gateway forwards requests to our phone. So you could imagine this bubble here is our phone. It goes to our gateway, which is like our home router, and then our home router goes out onto the public internet, and it goes to try and find, that YouTube video that you're looking for. It finds that YouTube video out here. It comes back to your router, because your router is uniquely identified, and then that comes to your phone. So this is okay looking at diagrams and understanding that, okay, this is just a little piece in the middle, But what does it actually look like in code? Well, if we were to use a framework like Spring Boot, we have a framework called Spring Cloud API Gateway. And if you're interested in seeing what that looks like and how you can create your own gateway, I'm going to create a video on it pretty soon. So go and take a look at that if you're interested.